to move on from there, it's exciting, but also in a way disappointing or disheartening to see music journalism in a state where you have this incredible wealth of diverse opinions, like coming at you in every direction from any number of voices. It seems like more people than ever are doing it, but simultaneously the more traditional signifiers and business models of the health of the industry, as it were, are either being bought out by large media publishers that are just kind of like treating it like a billboard to play, to paste like advertisements on, or, certain blogs and websites that have been going for 5, 6, 7, 10 years straight are closing or looking into crowdfunding options. Like, I don't know whether or not to be excited or worry at this point, like that things are going in a positive direction, but how can it move in a positive direction if people who are doing it so well can't find a way to support themselves in the process?
I think that's the key issue in art and culture in the 21st century. I wrote a book called Ripped about 10 years ago. I was so excited about the digital revolution, right? This was going to democratize everything, level the playing field. The promise of that was so enormous of what it could mean in terms of the way music was distributed and the way it was being accessed. And that was obviously going to affect every form of intellectual property, movies, the written word, etc. I thought it was a good thing. 10 years later, I'm not so sure. I think what we saw was the undercutting of all these major corporations that were dominating basically the way music was being distributed and accessed. You had the radio conglomerates, you had, a half dozen multinational labels, and that was it. There was indie labels, obviously, but they didn't have nearly the clout or the power. Then the idea of an internet, threw that all out the window, undercut all that sort of leverage and cut out the middlemen. Artists could reach listeners directly. But what's happening now is meet the new boss the same as the old boss. You've got Apple and Spotify and Google are the new Sony and Warner Brothers and BMG. And suddenly the names are different, but the centralization of power in a handful of multinationals is really once again the big issue. I think music's in a better place now, frankly, than it was 25 years ago in terms of just the way people can access it, and the way people can talk about it, and the way people can distribute it. But I'm really concerned about the fact that the internet, in some ways, is once again, just like the old music industry, is becoming, the power is held in a handful of multinationals, and that's a bad trend. And I think that's going to be the real dilemma about how we approach the next 10, 20 years.
And I tell you, Anthony, what we do, talking passionately about records we love or that disappointed us, I don't think the universe is going to be hurt if we can't make a living doing that, if we have to go out and get a real day job and then do this for fun on the side. But in our years at the Daily Newspaper, if I did not have the backing of the Chicago Sun-Times, R. Kelly would not be sitting in jail in the federal detention center downtown Chicago looking at a life in prison for destroying so many lives for 30 years. The reporting that Greg and I did, this is the non-glamorous stuff, right? About Live Nation gobbling up the concert industry from coast to coast. The many local challenges shutting down live music venues and national challenges. They're in an existential crisis right now. Without the protections that are coming, the extra money bailout that's coming to them now, thanks to the Biden administration, the Save Our Stages Act, they were not going to reopen. 9 out of 10 venues were not going to reopen. Where were we going to go see these bands? The emo band, the death metal band, the rapper, that is only on SoundCloud, right? There are some existential stories, and criticism is free. We can sit and listen and formulate our opinions and have this discussion on YouTube or on our podcast. That's great. But it takes money to do serious reporting, to expose companies and corrupt practices like Lollapalooza, like Live Nation, or even worse, like R. Kelly. Why did it take so long for that Evan Rachel Wood story to surface on Marilyn Manson? I wrote about his treatment of female fans 12 years ago. And that's tough work. And that you need to be paid for it. Even if you're paid poorly, you need to have the lawyers and the editors and the fact checkers and the institution behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's absolutely humble of you to say what you said in terms of the world not shedding a tear if you weren't making bank off of doing sound opinions. But I do think it is worth noting because, look, I mean, in my position, I run into a lot of people from a lot of different platforms that, run pretty healthy brands, whether that be on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And, whether through in person or online, we exchange. And I'm like, you have millions of followers or millions of views or interactions with everything that you're doing on this platform. Like, and they find ways to get by. But, I'm like, Instagram doesn't pay you? No. TikTok doesn't pay you? No. Twitter doesn't pay you? No. Facebook doesn't pay you anything? No. Well, you're driving millions of hits to their website every day with everything that you're doing. How are you giving all of this free labor for nothing? I mean, that was part of the reason I went into doing what I was doing, what I'm doing currently, because back when I was in public radio and they said, no, we can't pay you to do what you're doing, while it was nice to sort of have the clout for the moment that I did to sort of, get my foot in the door with certain PR people and be like, hey, can I get like a promo for the new Vampire Weekend or something? But eventually I had to move on because, you have to sort of make an adult decision.
You built something.
Yeah.
You built something. And the what Greg was saying is the way the digital revolution changed things is it's easier than ever to start your Rolling Stone, to start your Pitchfork. And then, I hope, Anthony, you do not eventually sell out to the HBO or the whatever. I mean, I wish you the wealth that such a thing would bring. But, look at Pitchfork. From starting in a kid's basement in Minneapolis, right? In a mom's basement, Ryan Schreiber, and now owned and brought to you by Condé Nast. This thing that was a labor of love that became a sustainable business for a good dozen people is now part of the corporate global hegemony. It's like, now maybe Greg and I are full of shit. Maybe we have never sold out because nobody's ever asked. It's possible, But I don't think constitutionally we'd be capable. And tell you the truth, I don't think you are.
I mean, I love doing what I'm doing and being in full control of it. There was an opportunity for someone to buy what I was doing early on and have me do it for them. And I said no, because I wanted to keep it. But, look, if Apple gives me $75 million to sit on a fluffy white couch across from Kendrick Lamar and ask him some softball questions... not only will it not,
you're saying you would be Joe Rogan.
Not only would it be hard to say no, but I may just send each of you guys $1 million because, if I ever take it, I'm just underwriting sound opinions from here until eternity. I'll say that.
Wow. I got that.
It's on tape. Really. It's on tape.
Write that down.
All right. Let me ask one more question along more business lines before we get into maybe some fun ones, because there are a lot of people who watch who are aspiring reviewers, reviewing themselves. They're starting social media accounts. They're doing music reviews on YouTube, on Twitch, on Instagram, wherever. As of right now in this very volatile state, what's like the most simple, straightforward baseline piece of advice you feel like you could lend to anybody starting out, right now who wants to get their voice out there and some opinions out there on records they're passionate about?
You do it and you don't stop doing it. You don't give up. You want to be a writer, you write, and then you write some more. You want to be a podcaster, you want to be a YouTube person, you just start doing it and you don't take no for an answer. You realize that at first you will suck. Right? And you will continue and you will suck a little less each time. Nick Tosh has put it this way in Pioneer of the early days of rock criticism. You can't be afraid to make a mess on the page. And if you stick with it and if you have the passion, if you're in it for the right reasons, you're going to get better. And then that those 3 followers are going to lead to 300, leads to 3,000. That's my take, right, Craig?
I wouldn't do this opining about music unless you were completely passionate about it, loving it. Just the thought of doing it, you can't imagine a day without it. For me, it was writing was a huge motivation, and then when I discovered music, like the world opened up for me about how incredible music was. and then reading a few key writers about how you could write about music in this way that was just beyond my understanding at the time, but really fascinated me. That just was the driving engine for me. And I had to do this, and I never turned away from it. It was like and as Jim said, I found myself writing something every day because I wanted to, not because it was a chore, but because I was excited about a piece of music that I heard, or I bought a record and I would review it just because, hey, somebody told me you could do that. And then somebody paid me for a review. I said, that's ridiculous. I can't believe that somebody would actually pay me to do this, because I would probably be doing it anyway. I just like doing it.
Thank you very much for watching this interview clip over on TND Streams. To see the full interview, click on the video link next to my head or down below, or hit up the link to subscribe to the channel or see our Patreon page to support what we do and get some extra bonus monthly content in the process. Anthony Fantano, forever.